And we are live. Good afternoon, good evening, slightly later than usual. This is Inspire and Be Inspired. If it's the first time you're joining us, my name is Andy Ward. I'm coming to you live and direct from Spain, and it is my pleasure this evening to bring you our co-parenting challenges conversation. We have one or two people with us live, and we get a hell of a lot more people coming back to check out the recording. So if you're either of those, then please do feel free to leave a comment. I'll give you a shout out, let me know you're there. And of course, as I just said, if you're watching the recording, also feel free to comment, leave your own experiences, or answer any of the points we bring up, because our guests will be checking them out. As you can see on the screen, the conversation is all about bringing up children together, apart, the co-parenting challenges of Emma Barber and Nick Collins. I say good evening to Angela, who was my guest last week on the show, and I will continue to say hi to anybody that leaves me a message. We make this as interactive as we can. I'll wait for a break in the conversation before I do address any of your points. So without further ado, let me head on over and say hello to my guests. On the left, we can see Emma, and on the right, we can see Nick. A very tentative hello, as I always wait to hear you live on air. How are you? Go on, Emma, you go first.
Sorry, I'm like, do I go first or does Nick go first? Yeah, no, all good, thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
no, thanks for welcoming us on board.
So I have you, and Nick, you're loud and clear also.
Yes, evening everyone. Hi, Andy.
Hi.
Hello, ex-wife.
Okay, so let's have an introduction from my perspective. I met you guys, I believe, at the Vocal Booth Weekender first, or it may have been at Southport Weekender, but I think it was at Vocal Booth first of all. You guys were a happy couple back then, and somewhere along the line, the two wonderful children came along, and you also came and spent some time at our house one afternoon. I actually recall it was on the day when they had those tragedies in London. If you remember, we sat watching the atrocities unfold on the TV on London Bridge a few years ago.
That's right.
So that's how I know you guys. Would you like to give us a short history of your relationship and how you got together? And when I ask the question, I'll leave one of you guys to decide who's going to answer first. So who's going to tell us about how the relationship began? Go for it, Emma.
So I was single for quite a while, and I said to one of my old friends, I want to meet a guy who wears a suit to work, who's not a builder. I've been previously married, so I was like, he's got no baggage, no crazy ex-wife. And my friend at the time said, I know somebody, Nick. And I said to my friend at the time, I've known you for 15 years. Why have you never sort of mentioned him previously? And we met up at like a music event, wasn't it, Nick, in Newport Pagnell?
That's right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Nick was eating I was a bit hungover actually that day, I remember. And you know when you like want like salty food, like a Cornish pasty or a sausage roll, and Nick was like sitting there eating this Cornish pasty, and I said, "Here, mate, where'd you get your Cornish pasty from?" And as he said, just down there, love, he sprayed pastry all over me. And yeah, like how the sausage roll sort of like the pastry just goes everywhere. And then since then, I thought, yeah, he's a good cat. And he had the most hideous shoes on. They were black and white checkered shoes. I think you might actually still have them, Nick. No, thank God for that. I chucked them obviously when we moved out, but no, and we just hit it off. And Nick got me into music because I was all very much I was set in my ways of the music that I liked, and Nick sort of broadened my horizons on the music, and hence Vocal Booth. That's how I remember it.
Okay, Nick, I'm assuming that you agree with everything that Emma said there.
Yeah, I was single at the time. I was just looking for something with a pulse, and then I choked on on a pasty, and there was this hot chick there. So yeah, I mean, that was the first time we met, and the hideous shoe you described was the first date.
Oh, yeah.
And then the second date was when I took you to that great pub that wasn't actually open, and they like, I don't know what they did. They just kind of like tipped over some tables and chairs for us and put some microwave food on. But anyway, so yeah, and vocal booth. By the way, Andy, I think I'd been to one vocal booth before, and then I took Emma. I don't know, maybe the first one was 2011, I think, my first VB. So I think yours must have been 12, Emma. But anyway,
No.
but yeah, so pretty much word for word as Emma said, and life moves at quite a pace, and bought a house together in 2013, married in 2015. Jack was born 2016, and Elizabeth 2018. And then then it sort of, the relationship ended at the beginning of 2019. So quite a lot going on in a short space of time, but I suppose we were always quite aware of our age coming into sort of mid to late 30s, that the clock was ticking from a having children perspective. So didn't have the luxury of time to hang about and party for 10 years. So did everything
And
at a
also
turbo.
work commitments as well, wasn't it? As well, really.
You both have quite responsible roles. Emma working for a family business, slowly but surely rising her way to the top to dominate the boardroom, and Nick quite a high flying sales role, right? So you had a lot of responsibilities. So we're not here to dissect why the relationship broke down. I mean, the long and short of it is the relationship did actually break down. But I think it would be interesting to ask, without touching too much of a raw nerve, how far into the breakdown of the relationship did you get when you realised that it was actually getting to the end and you had to make tough decisions for the children?
You go,
Emma, do you want to go?
No,
Do you
go
want
on.
Go on, she's waiting for you,
well,
Nick.
the timelines of, Jack was born end of August 2016, Elizabeth born June 2018, and a tremendous amount of pressure on both of us at the time, work wise, financially as well. I remember as Elizabeth got ill and was hospitalised while I was in Stuttgart, and but it just, when it did come to an end and we kind of made that call, that was it. Right from that moment, then it was about moving forward and not dwelling on do we, don't we, whatever else. And I think a conscious decision that we spoke about out loud at the time was we didn't want to stay together for the sake of the children. We hear that an awful lot. I heard it from my parents who split up and divorced. I think they stayed together, they told me, for 3 years for the sake of the children.
Or people have another child, don't they? They say that as well.
Yeah. But for me, it was potentially, then going to be more corrosive to stay together and toxic, because if you're not getting on and you can't be in the same room and without having an argument, then that's not going to be the most healthy environment to bring up your children in anyway. So it was a quite brutal but decision made with the right intent. It wasn't an emotional decision. It was kind of like, well, let's do that then. And from that moment on, you're not friends anymore. You're kind of, you don't really want to be in the same room. And Emma was the one really that pushed for having some sort of quite immediate structure into that relationship, whereby, we would immediatly have our own weekends with the kids, so even though we stayed together.
Well, let me see. You're painting a very amicable picture of the way that it all rolled out there, but I don't think it was very amicable at the beginning, was it? You were both, you didn't split up and live apart. You were both living under the same roof, right? So Emma, tell us about that.
Yeah, so we lived together, but I was in like one bedroom and Nick was in the other. And as I said, I put the structure in place and said, right, Wednesday's my nights off, whether I stayed at work late or went out with my girly friends or whatever. So even though we lived together, I was like, Wednesdays, you're doing bedtime routine, you're going to pick them up from school, and do all that. Same as on our weekends when we're on or off or what have you. And it was, it was things like bathing the kids, because you're in the same house. You sort of like, normally you'd bath the kids together, or I'll do the tea and you do that. But we were at each other's throats a little bit to start with, but then I was like, right, I was getting stressed, he was getting stressed. It was like, right, I'll do bath tonight, you sit there and do whatever, or you go to work, or we were very strict, but it was literally for the benefit of the children and for our own mental sake, really, so we wouldn't hit each other.
Did the children have any inkling of what was going on? Had you spoken to them? Because they're still very young, of course.
Elizabeth was only what, 6 months old, Nick, and
Yeah,
Jack
yeah.
So
was
she would
like
have.
one. Jack was
Sure.
like 2, so they had no idea.
Mhm.
And then we put the house on the market, and I moved into my mum's house, only for a few months because I bought a new build and things happened and it wasn't ready. And yeah, and even now, sorry, sort of digress that, but Nick and I, we spend, like, this Saturday, we're going to meet up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because there's a Halloween party at Nick's local club for the kids. And the other weekend, Nick picked me up and said, come on, we're going to go down the club and have a few drinks. And we got a Domino's, didn't we, Nick? And it's just about our relationship moving forward, so the kids don't see it as mummy's house, daddy's house. Nick will just walk in the front door at mine because my house is his house. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's,
Well,
and
maybe
that's what
would
we
you
want the
say
kids to see.
you have the benefit of them being so young, so they're not able to pick up on exactly what is going on and dissect the actual the dynamics of the relationship? Would that be correct in
Not
assuming,
at that
Nick?
time, but I mean, as young parents generally, you're always slightly on edge, paranoid, about parenting and whatever, and not really knowing what you're doing half the time. And the nurseries that the kids were in at the time, we were getting feedback from Jack. And bearing in mind he was only 2 or whatever, just in terms of his emotion, and it wasn't positive. But part of us was sort of questioning whether or not that was down to our situation at home being slightly toxic, or was it just the nursery being slightly neurotic? And it was interesting because when the nursery changed, we didn't get any reports at all. So as parents, you do have that doubt. And there must have been an influence because there would have been arguments and not a loving atmosphere.
No,
And
but voices raised,
yeah, and maybe on Jack that would have been a thing, definitely. And no one wants that. You want your kids to be happy, and that was always going to have to be the main motivator.
Okay, so did it get quite uncomfortable? Was there ever a moment where it was sort of no man's land? You really, the handover was very cold and things like that. It must have broken down to start healing again. I'm assuming. You tell me.
I'm sorry to butt in, but I think the only time I remember was COVID, Nick, from memory. And I had COVID and I was really quite poorly. And I think it was Nick's weekend to pick up the kids. So we picked him up at midday on the Saturday. And I literally couldn't get out of bed. I was really ill. And you turned up and you were struggling as well because obviously the whole world was on lockdown and it was just horrendous. That's the only memory that I have where me thinking, please just take the children because I need a break or whatever. And you stayed and we sort of played with the kids together because you were my bubble, and I was ill, but we worked together at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the period when we did eventually sell the house and you managed to, because it was always the priority to get you for me anyway, to get you and the kids into your place before me.
Yeah.
We managed to do, but it took me another year before I managed to get a place and move in there. So yeah, you're absolutely right. That period when I don't know how long you'd been in your house before the whole COVID thing kicked in, maybe a few months, I don't know, but I happened to be living out in a lovely place in the middle of nowhere in a little village just outside of Milton Keynes, but I was just surrounded by fields and completely isolated. And thank goodness for Neil McLean sending me those headphones so that I could join a few lads on Call of Duty. That got me through it. But that period of isolation when, I've just kind of moved out of the family home, then that happens. You've got too much time in your hands. And I think you go through a grief period, and that grief, whatever it is, can manifest itself in different ways. And a lot of the time it was anger, frustration, and just constantly going through, arguments and whatever you're in your head. And that grieving process, might cause you to want to lash out. But, by lashing out, I mean, be a dick,
Yeah.
to a decision or refuse to have the kid or something like that. But ultimately, I quickly realised that anything that I did out of anger would only reflect on my relationship with the kids by me not being able to see them as much, or not have the interaction, or Emma not sharing information with me. So, there were still, mental health challenges during that period. But, quickly realised that, working together would be better for my mental health than working against.
Wonderful. You've broken that down. Fantastic. I'll just take a very quick minute to say again, good evening to everyone joining us. We have got quite a few people watching us live. Good evening, Cliff. Good evening, Angel. And you mentioned then about Pugwash. One of the guys who joined us on the Xbox at the time, Mr. Dan Gurney, he says, Nick, you are a fantastic father to the children. Respect to you both for being open and honest. Open and honest about the path life has taken you both down. Co-parenting must not be easy, but you both appear to be smashing it and making it work for the whole family. Dan says together as one. And Mr. Colin Williams says, such a great story. He's been where you both are, and it's very tough. So I'll say again, please feel free to leave some comments. I will come and address them as we go on. So Nick, you said about wanting to lash out there. There is going to be times of anger. You're obviously very level-headed. I guess I'll ask the question without dwelling on it. Were either of you better than the other throughout the course of it, or did it ever get quite nasty at one time, or did you both kind of hold it within yourselves until you got to the place where you are now? Emma, I'll ask you that.
I don't think so. I just kind of just sort of kept myself to myself, and if I was I would never lose my shit to an extent. I would just be quiet and just not say nothing. That's how I deal with things. Where Nick would open up and be like, no, Emma, don't do that, do it this way or whatever. But no, I was sort of like, right, I've got 2 children, I'm a single mum, shit, what am I going to do? Right, I've got a good house, I just need to focus on them. And sorry to say it, Nick, but I wasn't thinking of him. My main priority are the children. Yeah. And Jack was joining school, so when I was moving, I was like, right, I need to look at the Ofsted reports, and then I need to think about what nurseries Elizabeth's going to go to, because obviously I work full time. So I was thinking, to be fair, Nick wasn't my priority, it was the children. And Nick, we had our set structures of Wednesdays and every other weekend. So it's like, right, you're just going to work in the background and work with us. People say don't change just because you've had children, but you need to change, both of you. You need to adapt to the needs of the children. And my main focus was them and my career, basically.
I get you. So, I mean, from the off, you were already in a good place from a maturity point of view. That's not the right phrase that I want to use, but because the actual public statement that you made on your Facebook telling all of your friends and family of the situation, it was quite a very moving post that was made. I mean, did you spend a lot of time drafting that between you before you made the official announcement? I mean, we're rolling back a little bit now, but I think it is quite important.
Yeah, I think I was in Mersley, wasn't I? And when
you was. We was in the kitchen.
I thought during all of this, just when, like, about 6 months after Em and I agreed to split up, and about the time I was moving house, I broke my leg as well. So I thought I'd chuck that in good measure. So I had to move house with a broken leg, and Emma was insistent that I had the children during this time. Nasty piece of work.
We have structure.
We have structure. And so, hobbling along with a broken leg and looking after the children in COVID and isolation was a particular challenge. But glad I did it, because that kind of, forced you to sort of to get into that sort of mentality. But I remember, because we took a picture, didn't we, in when we were sat in the kitchen, and I remember drafting it and then just sort of running it by you and making a couple of changes. But no, I just did it on the afternoon, and I didn't really write it out or anything, I don't think.
No,
it was a great post, and all the way through. I mean, I've commented to you both, haven't I, on many occasions, how very impressed I am with the way that you've dealt with this. A few more people coming in and commenting. Another of our Xbox buddies, Yance, says it's great to see you guys doing this. As someone who does it myself, I do a week on and a week off with the children. It's not the easiest thing, not the easiest of things to do, but it does work. Lee Fisher pops in and says hello. Pogwash says, who mentions my name? Amanda Goodridge, she's very proud of you both. Nick, your mum and sister are watching. And my good friend Mark up the road, he says, hats off, guys. It's very refreshing and well done. Family all the way. Life throws curveballs and you are both a breath of fresh air. And then Jane Harrington, who's only missed 20 minutes so far, says, I'll have to listen back. We are having an open and frank discussion about the way that these two wonderful people are dealing with this. So officially divorced now. Has that all gone through?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, no, it has, absolutely. And
I hope so.
That was something that we sort of wanted to get fresh, clean start, move on, and that happened quite promptly within the legal time frame of these things. I think it's 2 years. I don't know. I can't remember. We got it done, but also important that I think while we were still together, still living together, I don't think we'd set up a child maintenance agreement, but we sorted that out very quickly. As soon as we moved into separate homes, certainly that was set up because I guess a lot of the fallout and the disagreement can be about financial support. Therefore, that then breeds into conversations around access. We just you do the right thing. If you're a parent, then you should contribute financially, in my view, and that's what I do. That just takes one of the big arguments away. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, financially,
I remember
and
it.
You are
sorry for butting in, Nick, but I remember it. We actually sat there at dinner table one night, and we went onto like the government website, and it was like you put in your salary and how many hours we think it's reasonable for you to have the children. And sorry to mention you, Amanda, but we sort of followed you with your ex and how he has the children. It was like, oh yeah, Wednesdays works, it's midweek, and we've done this whole calculated thing and how many days. And we spoke about it openly, didn't we? And it was like, oh, the childcare is going to cost this, and I'm going to do that. And
yeah,
and even now, when I pick them up on a Sunday at the club and you'll buy the first round, I'll get a Domino's pizza or whatever. It's just about working together.
There will be people watching this who are completely bewildered on how you make it happen, because I can see some people here who I know have had the most traumatic relationships with the parent, that with their partners, and the father and the mother of their children. So to hear you be so calm and fantastic about it, some people just believe there's some kind of witchcraft.
No one cheated. No one punched someone else in the face or anything like that. So there wasn't anything sort of like that to cause it. It was, simply fell out of love. But what I would say is, for people that are in a difficult position, is that the website, the government website, is easy to use. It is very clear. You can just log on. Put the salary in, put how many days, and the way that it works it out is that depending on the number of days you would have your children a week, will work out to a total number of days in a year. So I can't remember what the bandings are now, but the more that you have your children, obviously the less, from my perspective, the less financial contribution I would make. And the way that it works out with the time that I have the children now, which works out to be 4 out of 14 nights, you multiply that up to a year. I think it comes out at around 104, 105 days, and depending on those days, will dictate how much you have to contribute. And it's very clear and it's very easy to use, and there's no real debate there, because if you can't agree, then the government will send you a letter and tell you based on what your earnings were last year, and it's made clear that way. So for anyone that is struggling, not suggesting you need to sit around the dining room table and do what we did at all, but to know what you are owed or what you should pay is very clear in the government website.
I think everyone just, sorry for butting in, Andy.
Carry on,
I
Emma.
think everyone just needs to remember it's, although Nick and I might have despised one another at the time, but you just need to look at those children and think you're doing whatever you can for those children. So behind the closed doors, when the kids are in bed, Nick and I might be like, oh, no, I want to watch this, I want to watch that, but just think about the children at the end of the day and what they see and what they think. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Even the money side of it, I'm just kind of like, well, whatever, however difficult it was to come to an agreement with you about what the split was and whatever, after a couple of years, you kind of think, well, when I snaff it, my money's going to go to the kids. And when you snaff it, the money's going to go to the kids. So ultimately, It's all going to the kids anyway. Who cares? Mm-hmm. If I haven't drunk it all by then. But we'll see.
I have to ask the question then. So you say 4 days out of 14. Who came to that decision? Who chose that number? Would you like it to be different? Are you happy with that number?
It's Amanda's fault.
It was less than that, wasn't it? It was. We didn't do the midweek thing at first. I don't think, did we? I think it.
No, we did. I just remember it from following. I remember us having the conversation. It was like, what do we do? Do we do like all weekend or? And I was like, oh no, that's too much because Elizabeth was so young. She was only 6 months.
Yeah.
I wasn't breastfeeding or anything, but I was like, no, she's still a baby,
So joint custody was never an option, or it was never discussed.
No.
Because I know people that do that, and they do it quite well.
Yeah.
Not at that age.
No, not that. I think it was we just followed from friends, and like I said, Amanda, what she had with her ex-partner, and it was like, what do other people do? That's what you always say about everything, don't you? What do other people do in these situations? It was like, oh, Wednesday, that's quite good because that's midweek, and then every other Saturday, yeah, that's good because then I can go out with the girls or whatever.
But I did struggle. I mean, I really struggled. Particularly a couple of years ago. Elizabeth was 2, Jack was 4. COVID aside, whether or not it was you could go out and do things or not, it was I really struggled, and there were times when I said I can't cope to Emma, and she did have to bail me out a couple of times, and have the kids, and I really struggled. I was having
Oh, so you weren't. I'm listening to what you're saying, thinking you're struggling because you needed more access, and you're actually saying no, I can't this weekend.
Not on my own, and now I can laugh about it because when I hang out with mates that have got kids similar age, and it's like, oh my god, I had to look after Sebastian or whatever for an hour early, and I'm gonna die, and I'll just snigger.
To be fair, Sebastian does sound like a little bastard. Sebastian sounds like a little bastard already.
Yeah. So I think if I know any kids called Sebastian now, and I'm panicking, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I do.
Sorry. Tarquin. Calm down, Tarquin.
Tarquin.
No one knows a Tarquin now, though.
So it's all fun and games, and it's all you're all very commendable. Lee Fisher says very strong characters, a very mature approach to co-parenting. Our very good friend Suella says it's actually making her very emotional, and a bit of a failure how mad it is that she absolutely applauds you both. Now, unfortunately, someone like Suella saying about feeling like a failure, there's only so much you can do as one individual in a partnership, right? It does take both people to have the approach that you've got, and as time progresses, do you are you flexible to change the arrangements, or are you going to be very rigid in the access, I suppose, if that's the word you want to put down to it? Could you, Nick, for example, say, you know what, I want the kids for 3 days in 2 weeks' time? That can't happen.
Well, I'm very conscious that it's all well, me having the kids from midday on a Saturday through to 3 or 4 o'clock on a Sunday isn't a full weekend, and we all have a whole weekend to ourselves. So ultimately, that will be a consideration. I haven't mentioned it to Emma, but a consideration where I do perhaps have the kids on, from a Friday night through to the Sunday, so that she does get a couple of nights. Now they're getting older, that's the consideration. And I'm certainly, as long as it's planned and we're both happy with the arrangement, then, the answer is yes. I'm up
okay.
for.
Let me address the elephant in the room then, because Emma's like, we'll see it when she's back. Emma's like, no, we don't make those plans yet. So you've got different
Only
ideas,
because
Emma.
every Wednesday is like my Wednesday, and I'm with my job. I'm with the RHA, so we've actually changed our board meetings now to have them on a Thursday, because we have a dinner on the Wednesday night. So everyone's like, no, we can only do a Wednesday night because that's the night Emma's not got the kids,
Okay.
But and I plan everything. I'm a nightmare. I'm so regiment on what I do, and I'm like, I book my nails in on a Saturday at 12:30 because I'll drop the kids off at 12, or I have to go into the office. And so yeah, there'll be times like on a Tuesday I'll say to Nick, oh, can you have the kids because I'm invited to some sort of dinner or whatever with work, and you're flexible. And I'll say, well, I'll have them on the Wednesday then, because you've had them on the Tuesday, Nick. And you're like, no, Wednesday's my night. So he'll have them on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, like last weekend. So just about working together. And
So
Yeah,
if
we
if
try
it
and
wasn't in... Sorry, Nick, go on.
So I was going to say, well, yeah, I agree. We do try and keep the structure and the consistency, because it's important for Jack and Elizabeth so they don't know what they're doing. Because if you start changing the days and doing different things, then they get confused anyway. So it's important for them to have consistency. But I hadn't mentioned the Wednesday. I was referring more to the weekend of maybe having them a bit more as they get older, perhaps for a whole weekend. But at the age they were at and kind of are at the moment, 2 nights in a row is a bit of a slog for me. I lose my shit.
Well, Amanda, I was just briefly reading this very quickly, and I realised that I didn't read it with the correct punctuation. Nick and Emma were amazing at falling out. But what it actually says is Nick and Emma were amazing at falling out, but moving on from their fallouts.
Oh,
Massive credit to them both. Massive credit to them both for not wanting to win in every argument, just accepting and moving on. So did you ever have to seek any outside external help, whether that be talking to people at work if they offer that kind of thing, or seeking help online, or speaking to anybody on the phone? Either
at the time,
yeah.
well, at the time, I don't know. Yeah,
no, we did. We went to that place in Wolverton.
We did, but if you remember, I had I thought it'd be a good idea, actually, to a few days after we'd split up, to keep my vasectomy appointment, and also then get flu, and then book a counselling appointment. So
dramatic.
Yeah. So yeah, we did give it a go. It didn't work out so well. We had one session and didn't go back.
No, I think we had two. And I was more like, really?
I was probably too worried about my balls just having been chopped off to worry about what was going on in that.
Session, and she's just talking there about trying to help us get back together, and it was too late, and we weren't about together. It was just more, we're not going to be together. Let's just focus on the children.
Right, okay.
So, go to these mediation and stuff.
Carla, our friend Carla, says mediation. That's obviously what you're talking about. Lee Fisher asks, I don't think actually, I was going to say you're not a big football fan, but you're a Spurs fan, aren't you? So it's probably right. Do Wednesdays impact Champions League, Nick? He says. And then,
well, I don't know what the score is now, if anyone wants to let me know, because I can't have it on in the background. I'll be distracted. So tell me if it's 2 or 3-0 down.
Well, fair play to you for sticking to the appointment, mate. And Jenny B says, I applaud you both for focusing on the children. Co-parenting requires being selfless. So, I mean, we could quite easily sit and talk about what fantastic role models you are and how you can, pass off your pearls of wisdom to others. What are you hoping, or what do you believe has been the strongest trait that you both have, the thing that you feel you've brought individually to making this work? What would you both say your strengths are in this relationship? Emma, I'll go
Wow.
to you because Nick looks deep in thought. What would you say your strongest at to keep the balance?
Just
Emma.
communicate. So Nick and I will speak probably pretty much every night, whether that's 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night. Once I've relaxed and sitting there eating my chocolate bar, and I'll be like, "Oh, Jack was a nightmare tonight," or "Oh, he read this book and he got on really well," and Elizabeth was a drama queen because she didn't have a pink toothbrush. It's just about communicating with one another. Even sometimes I'll communicate with Nick and be like, "Oh, I've had a really shit day today," and I won't even mention the kids. And then I'll be like, "Oh yeah, the kids are fine anyway. Yeah, all good." And I'm like, "Yeah, they're fine." So it is just about communication. And Nick, sometimes, like this morning, you rang, and oh no, this afternoon when you rang about the password thing, picking up the kids, and the kids are like so many different like clubs and after school clubs, and got so many passwords to pick them up, and you're like, "What's the password? What's the password?" But it's just about communicating and just working together for the benefit of them two eggs, as much as you might despise one another, which luckily, Nick, we don't. Well, I hope we don't, mate.
Well, it doesn't look like you do. Nick?
I mean, someone mentioned the point scoring thing, and I think that as long as you're not point scoring in, and we had to draw a line. How do you draw the line? How do you stop picking points or arguing, whatever? And after we'd split up, we said that really we've got to focus our conversations. Every conversation must be about the kids, not about us or the job or anything like that. It's just let's just make sure every conversation is about the kids. And in terms of any requests that come in from either of us, if it's for personal reasons, no. But if it's in the best interest of the kids, then yes. Because we were trying to find a balance between where does I'm not a husband anymore, so the fact that Emma's got shit going on at work is not really my problem anymore. And so therefore, generally, if there's a request to sort of, can you have the kids because work, the answer will be no. But if it's
I think that's a very fair point. I think that's a very fair point.
But if it's planned in advance and in a few weeks' time, I've got this coming up or I've got that, would you mind? Then yeah, not a problem. But neither of us are here to be the other one's reactive, supportive partner anymore. So, but I think the answer to the question is respect. Then it needs to go both ways of the boundaries.
Okay, so again, everyone is just pouring compliments upon you, pouring the compliments upon you. And someone asked a question. Do you want to know the score, by the way, Nick?
Go on.
While you're talking about football, I'm going to get another drink.
Go on then. You're 1-0 down.
Okay.
Okay. So can you still hear me, Emma? Shout, yes?
Yes, I can still hear you.
Yes,
I'm
you can
just
still
talking
hear
about
me.
my glass.
Okay,
I've not got
so
children.
a question that we've been asked that I have to relay. Have you been through the new partners thing?
I was going to mention that earlier. And I was sort of like dating someone or seeing someone, and like the kids had mentioned the person's name. I don't want to mention it online, but let's say, I don't know, Joe. And Nick, you were really reasonable with it. And like, I think it was it might have been Elizabeth's birthday, and he was here, and it was like, "Hi, yeah, fine, yeah, you." Shake your hands, "Yeah, all right, mate, yeah, you." And it was just amicable. And I've always been open with you and said, "Oh, I've got a date tonight," or "Oh, I'm doing this tonight." And you have also, when you've had a date and you've sort of said, "Oh, I've got a date tonight." And I was like, "Oh yeah, where's she from? What's she do?" Just showing an interest of each other's relationship status, because at the end of the day, you want to know who this person is that could be sitting on the sofa with your child,
I understand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm kind of very straight and direct, and decisions made that relationships over, so therefore it's inevitable that one of us might meet someone else, and obviously it goes through your mind, how are you going to react to that? And walking into the room to see the gym muscle-bound guy that's slightly taller than me and good jawline was not intimidating at all. But no,
I've been here all the time. I've been here all the time.
So whoever he was, it was always going to be, am I going to be a dick or am I going to be, reasonable? Because ultimately, doesn't it benefit me more having a nice environment rather than something that's slightly tense and awkward? So, yeah, don't have to be mates with him, just have to be civil. And yeah, that was that.
That's
But from her perspective, from my perspective, it's not really been something that I've pursued or been interested in. Kind of, soon after that, because as I spoke about grief earlier, and goes through a bit of a grieving period, and then it's almost like survival of just needing to be in a better place to be strong enough to be able to look after your kids. And I was in quite a dark place. I don't mind talking about that. I had personal counselling and been down the lines of depression and still on medication now, and have been for a few years. And without that, it takes the edge off. But without that, then it really would have been a struggle. But fast forward a couple of years later, still having to check myself and do some of the right things. But Emma and I would consider as friends now. We're able to hang out, and the stuff that she shares with me and I share with her that I don't think we share with too many other people. So there's still that trust and respect there, but just general mutual hatred for after about more than 2 hours.
Oh no, come on, we can do 2.5 as long as there's alcohol.
With alcohol, yeah.
You say that in jest, and let me pick at the scab. Does it ever get uncomfortable at times? Do you ever wind each other up?
Haven't had an argument in 2 or 3 years.
Wonderful.
After you, Emma, when did we fall out? We did fall out.
When I had COVID.
Not fall out. You what? Sorry.
When I had COVID.
Yeah, you're so selfish.
No, it was the whole going to Spain on Elizabeth's birthday thing. I think.
Oh yeah.
That wasn't good. But yeah, we had a bit of a falling out. Not falling out. It was not Emma's fault. It was just generous family members had bought, flight tickets to go out to their place in Spain. It just so happened to fall on Elizabeth's birthday, so I wasn't going to see my daughter on her birthday, and that was not done maliciously, purposely, or otherwise. And Emma didn't even do it. So
no, they were mum's thinking of like half term or whatever, and restricted on dates. And, which is probably one thing we actually do need to discuss, and maybe not now whilst we're live on Facebook, but like half term, like we've done Christmas already. Obviously, it's only a few weeks, well, not a few weeks, 8 weeks away, but actually, like summer holidays. I think there's me being structured, but holidays. Then I'm going to have the kids this week, and maybe put in the birthdays and be like, right, Elizabeth's birthday falls on a Wednesday. Well, sure not. Well, no, I want to see them on a Wednesday. I think we actually need to plan that. I'll send you an email tomorrow.
Wonderful. It is. You're obviously both very balanced, despite your challenges that you both have had. You are very balanced. You are able to stop and think and do the right thing. As many people watching this will agree with, it isn't always that easy, and you do make it sound just so fantastic and unbelievable. I'm fairly certain there's a lot of people who are just saying, this is unbelievable and it's great, and they could only.
Well, there is a why though. There is another why, and that why is your own childhood. And from my perspective, my mum and dad were together and until I was 10, and I remember the conversation, when I was 10. From mum and dad sitting us down and telling us that it was no more. And I remember then, before even teenage years, then, dad having to move back to his parents in North London, and, not have his own place for a bit, met someone. And then that someone was very different to my mother, very, very different. And then growing up when you're 12, 13, 14, trying to find yourself in a very strict rules house, got told off for not puffing the pillows up correctly or me clammy hands or whatever it was, where I had total freedom, not total freedom, but I had my friends and I could do, more than what I wanted in Milton Keynes, as opposed to going to my dad's miles away with no one. And it wasn't good. It felt like I had to be two different people growing up, when it didn't do me well growing up. And I thought, well, whatever happens, I if I do happen to meet someone and we do go pear-shaped, what I don't want is for my children to have to go through the two house syndrome, the two sets of rules. You're trying to find, discover about your body and your mind and all that, and you've got to worry about, what do I do in this house compared to that house? And inevitably there'll always be different parenting styles, but that I will always remember, and that's part of my main motivation as well is consistency for that reason. But Emma, you're
you saying about that, but it's like you started, Jack, with the no pull-ups of a night time, and I was like, no, he's not ready. I'm thinking, oh no, that's my baby, and other women that are probably watching and probably thinking the same. And I'm like, no, he's not ready. He still needs his pull-ups. Oh, we'll just do another night just in case. And you were like, I'm
going to the gym. I'm going to the gym too much. I'm thinking, why is he doing pull-ups of a night time?
No, pull-ups is in nappies, Andy. Your children are a lot older. That's why. But and Nick, all credit to you. You were like, no, we're going to do it, and I was like, oh, okay. So I had to respect that and go, okay, I'm going to do it, and we've done it, and we cracked it, and
what's your family dynamic, brothers and sisters wise, Emma?
I've got two sisters. My mum and dad separated when I was really young. We've got no real memory of that. I see my real dad now occasionally, birthdays and sort of things like that, but my Peter, he's my stepdad, but he's my sort of main person I see every day. He works in the family-run business. It's his business, which is my baby.
Did you have quite a strict upbringing yourself, or were you a spoiled child or not?
No, I think I wasn't spoiled. I think it was just really relaxed, like I remember going to my dad's and my dad being quite fun because we'd go down the pub and stuff, but my mum was always working. But no, I've got no real memory of it being awkward or horrible or anything. No. Right. It was just not amicable like Nick and I are, but it was just like, oh, I'm going to dad's for the weekend. Oh, okay. Or I'd be like, no, I'm not going. And mum would be like, okay, you don't need to go. What my mum had to deal with my dad losing his shit because he didn't have me over for the weekend, I don't know. But yeah, no, I don't really recall any major.
So a few more comments coming in. Michelle's been watching. She says you guys are just great. Colin is continuing to commend you. Jenny B says the older you get, the more you learn, but you need to be mentally prepared to give and take. And Colin also says again, his child guided. Oh, I think he's saying his childhood guided how he handled his own split parenting behaviour. Sorry, there, just reading that. And then Carla says the upset, trauma and heartache between parents and kids after breakups and divorce definitely has an impact on our adult relationships. And then Lynn Henson, who gives us an informed opinion. I'll be discussing Lynn very shortly. She says, the damage fighting parents do to children is enormous. Your children look back with such love and respect for you, putting their needs in the centre, even when it's tricky. Good for you for making the change and respecting each other enough so that the children don't have the same negative experience that Nick has had. And that is coming from Lynn, who works within the social working environment, and I'll be discussing Lynn in a little bit. So again, everyone listening, we got a great amount of people who are watching and viewing and who are all applauding you. I think we've covered the main crux of how you make it work and how you're going to make it work. You've even just addressed something that you haven't discussed yet, and it was, it's clear to see that you'll be able to face any challenges as they come head on. Who's going to be the one who's going to talk about the birds and the bees?
Nick.
What about it? What? How?
Can you remember?
Both our children.
Well, how we had Did we, Nick? Did we not just?
Well, all I know is I'm partly responsible for both, and that's pretty much. I don't know. What do you mean, birds and the bees, Andy? What do you want to know?
It was just a joke. It's nothing.
We were actually like,
when you have the children. And when you have to have that conversation when he's coming of age.
He had a picture of you over the bed with your vocal booth radio show on repeat, and that was what she insisted when we made our children.
Can we talk about this, actually?
Do you remember this? Do you
Can
remember
we
this?
talk about this? Or maybe we shouldn't talk about it. Emma came up to me at Southport, and I can't remember
No, it wasn't
exactly what it
Southport,
was.
it
It
was in
wasn't. It was a
Birmingham.
VB reunion. It was
In
a
Oh, was
VB
it?
reunion, I think.
And was it you, said, Nick, my wife wants you to talk into her
Girlfriend,
ear
yeah.
or something? I can't even remember what.
It was
And I was
through
like,
my
Yeah, I think we tried
voicemail.
to get you to record something on her phone or something.
It was from my voicemail.
Voicemail. Oh.
I was very embarrassed. I know that. So
It was a bit
sorry.
weird.
yeah.
It was a
Well,
bit
it's all right.
weird.
We're going to have like an hour's worth of my voice now on this podcast with you guys. So maybe that'll suffice. I don't know.
I'm bored of it now, Andy. I've heard it for too long.
Yeah, everyone says that, to be fair. Everyone says that, Emma, if I'm honest. You should have been at Vocal Booth. You would have been extremely bored of it. Guys, we're going to start wrapping up. So if you've got any more comments, all our wonderful viewers, please do feel free to ask a question. Do you feel we've covered everything, Emma and Nick? Is there anything else that's...
Not really, no. I think, the real main question of, will we ever appear at Vocal Booth again? I mean, there's more likelihood of me doing it. But Emma suggested that her and the girls would go head out. Was it this year, Emma? You were talking about it, but
Yeah.
I mean, if Andy's babysitting circle thing kicks off, the idea that you come up with, Andy, I love that. Then yeah, me and Emma will come along, bring the kids, and kids can go into Andy's babysitting club, and we can go and rave. Happy days. See you next year.
Well, it's a coincidence I have this T-shirt on this evening, but the new facilities, the new situ is fantastic for children. So I'm sure you could bring them both along, and there'll be more than enough people to take them off your hands, for you to have a little party.
Yeah.
It's all really good, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely.
So it's all good. I'm just checking to see that anyone else is saying. Again, more compliments, Carla. I think it's incredible what you're doing and managing for the kids. Peace of mind for them both. It's so refreshing. And Jenny's paying compliments to another topic that we covered on the channel. And Amanda says it's been very therapeutic. And then I'm sure you must get asked this a lot. I'm going to ask the question. Amanda says, can you get back together now, please?
Absolutely not.
That would involve being together for more than 2.5 hours without alcohol at times, wouldn't it? So
I've dealt with an hour with him with alcohol.
You say in jest. If I didn't know you better, I would think that your jokes were masking a deeper problem. But it's clear to see that there really is no problem there. You really are great together. And
sorry to butt in, Andy, but Monday night when I've been up all night with work because our service went down at work, and Nick was quite conscious. So you rang me Monday and you was like, "You all right?" And I was like, "Tired? No, I'm not." He's like, "You got the kids yet?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "What? You got the dinner?" And you were actually like worried about me, as in, "Have you eaten? What have you had for lunch?" And you were like, "Should I bring something over?" And I was like, "No, it's cool. I don't need it. It's fine." And he was like, "Okay, cool. See you later."
Yeah, I'm not stupid. If you keel over, I've got to have the kids full time. I'm not done.
Wonderful. We're being asked the question here that I think you'll both be able to answer, and I won't keep you much longer because I know time's getting on. And Emma, I think you've got a pizza waiting in the wings, right? Unless I'm mistaken.
It's en route. 9:15. It's all right. You've got another 15 minutes.
We've got 5 minutes. A friend of mine here in Spain, Simon, asks, "What do you do when things get ugly? I've tried so hard but failed miserably so many times. Working with the mother of my child, I gave up." I mean, I don't know whether because you've been fortunate enough to not be in a position where it's got ugly too many times. What would you recommend?
No, we know
or
plenty
suggest?
of people that, I mean, it's really difficult to sort of, pass wisdom on. But whenever I hear of a problem this sort of size, I try and break it down to sort of say, what is it that I can try and do in the next 24 hours? And I don't know the context of the issues. Is it Simon, did you say?
Simon, yes.
So, and for how long for? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of complexity. But, in terms of what is it that you want, if it's the basics of I want access to my kids, I want consistency, and I want to have, a decent relationship with them, then already I suppose you're starting on the same common ground as the ex in basic terms. But it's very difficult to say without
it's hard
understanding
to say,
what the
sorry,
context
Nick,
is.
Butting in, but
Go on, please. I'm waffling.
it's hard to say because we don't know Simon. So if you want to comment again, that would be helpful. But a lot of my perception is a lot of people think, oh, it's the woman is the primary care of the children. So if Simon's thinking, oh, I've got to have the kids this Saturday and I can't be doing with it, or I don't know, we need to know the content of the question. Really.
Yeah,
I
I think
understand.
consistency, commitment, structure,
Yeah.
a mutual
And
respect.
even if you can't communicate on the phone with one another, like we would talk sometimes, Nick, over like the school holidays. We sent emails, didn't we? We done an Excel spreadsheet about who's having the kids on
Dates.
what days.
Yeah.
So if you can't communicate verbally, well, then do it electronically. Have a bloody WhatsApp message or something.
Mm-hmm. I'm just reading some comments here. Pugwash is clearly about 10 minutes behind in the conversation. He's just catching up on the part about having sex to my voice. Rowan Warmington says, me and the kid's mum are like this. It's fabulous for their mental health. His children are much, much older. They're teenagers and adults almost now. We are both off to watch Harvey at a gig in Sheffield, and he is happy and comfortable for us all to be in the same space supporting him. It's never about you, it has to be about the kids. And he says, I love people like this. And then Simon has come round and answers. He says, the mother has severe animosity towards me, even though she's moved on. So, I mean, it seems like he's fighting a losing battle, so to speak, really. And then it's very difficult, isn't it?
Well, all I'd say to Simon is, if you're paying what the government says you should be paying, if I can be so bold, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing as a father and you're there for your kids, it's not about you and her. I mean, having a communicative relationship like I have with Emma is a bit of a bonus, so you can find out, if the kids were annoying when they clean their teeth or whatever. But ultimately, the most important thing is for you, the relationship with you and the kids. So if you are able to get that structure and you are able to see them consistently and you are able to keep that going over a period of weeks and months, whatever, then I don't know. Anyway, you may already be there. It may be far more something else than that. But if you do want to reach out, I'm more than happy, to have a chat with anyone really.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'll please send me a message on Facebook.
I will. I'll tag you both in the description if you don't mind, so
fine.
that people can, and they will reply, and you'll be able to see all the replies. We've had a hell of a lot of replies as well, and now Carla is talking directly to Simon. And Angel saying thank you. So I think I'll start wrapping this up now, guys, because we could be here chatting all evening about different circumstances. But I think you've painted an extremely clear and very commendable picture on the way that you handle things. And it was actually you guys who reached out and said that you'd be happy to discuss and come on here. So I thank you for that. And we look forward to where it all goes, and I look forward to the fireworks in the summer holidays to see who actually gets the most days, and when it all kicks off. But keep up those positive status updates on Facebook, because it is really heartwarming to see, and all your friends have definitely got your backs. And
okay, well, thank you.
You've got a strong support network out there.
Thanks everyone for kind comments.
Thank you.
Wicked. Any final words from you guys?
Thanks, Nick, for being an amazing father.
That's wonderful.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for welcoming us, Sandy, and Emma. Thank you for your contribution to creating our children.
Beautiful. Okay, Emma, enjoy your pizza. Nick, enjoy the back end of the football.
I hope so. Cheers.
See you later. See you later.
Bye.
Okay, and there go Nick and
Nick.
Emma. I was going to say Nick and Amanda then for some reason. Wonderful. Weren't they great? Really heartwarming. And I do know there are going to be some of you watching that in complete disbelief. I said it earlier, I'll say it again. I know some of your relationships with your other halves, the parents of your children, and I know that's like a dream come true, right? So yeah, thank you again when you come back and check that out, Nick and Emma. I'll just read some of these comments here. Michelle says, thank you guys. It's been a fantastic chat. Angel says it would be useful to have a chat with you both. I understand the situation that you guys are in. So yes, I'll must remember to tag Nick. And Elaine Jackson, good evening. I'm sitting up a little bit straighter now, Nick's mum. I would just like to say how much I miss Emma, her parents, but particularly the relationship. How wonderful that you have that those sentiments to them both. Thank you for watching. And Lynn is leaving some messages for Simon, which I will read in a little bit. Amanda says, well done, it's been brilliant. Great parents, lovely call. Colin, emotional. Spurs are 1-0 down. Yeah, we already knew that. And relevant stuff for so many. Denise, thanks for sharing. Thank you, Denise. Doing my best to bring you more of these non-music related conversations. I know you like them. And Mr. Lee Fisher, still watching. Good show. Thanks, Lee. I'll be talking to you soon, brother. And we'll get you back on and we'll discuss some music and some non-music topics. Looking on the screen in front of me, I can see a world of people who are now following the page and who have liked the page. Thank you very much to Helen, Rob, Bobby, Ralph, Diana, Fozzie, John, Andy, Mr. Madison and Sarah. Phil shares the post. Sarah liked the video. And Pogwash says, I'm sorry, I paused the video to go to the loo. It's all good. In front of me, we can see next Wednesday, a little bit earlier, it's going to be at 7 o'clock UK time. I will be talking to the wonderful Lynn Henson. A journey through social work, finding the nice in the trickiest of times. Lynn has a story to make your toes curl. I tend to not do a lot of I tend not to ask a lot of questions before I have these conversations because I like them to be as natural as possible because you never know what they throw up. But Lynn sent me quite a detailed email through about her journey in social work. And I cannot wait to have her on the chat next week. So please try and remember to come back. You may be watching this on my own profile, but there is an official page called Inspire and Be Inspired. If you can do a quick look for it, I'll paste it at the end of the comments. Head on over, try it and get a notification when we go live. And yeah, just join us for the ride. Lynn has 5 p.m. in her diary. Thank goodness you're listening. Well, listen, the earlier the better for me, to be honest. It means I can get to bed sooner. But no, I think 5 p.m. might be a little bit too early. We want to try and get as many people watching as possible. So if 7 p.m. works for you next Wednesday, Lynn, let's keep it as 7 p.m. Mr. Chacon, good evening, sir. ¿Qué tal, amigo? Buenas noches. And finally, I'll draw attention to these names to the bottom right of the screen. My Access subscribers, you can see logos, business logos, DJ names all rolling on a little slideshow. Thank you all for being a part of this. You've enabled me to touch up the studio ever so slightly. My computer's about to shut down. I've just prevented that. So I just wanted to say thank you. At the end of the stream, I've got some new graphics. Stick around. You'll see your name come up on a credit roll, giving my praise and thanks to you. That's about it for me. Lynn says 7 p.m. next weekend is great. So I'll see you next Wednesday, 7 p.m. where I'll be talking to Lynn Henson. We'll be talking about her journey through social work. We'll also be talking about parties. We'll also be talking about their blatant vandalism of graffiti up and down the country with these little stickers. You are nice. All of that and much more next week. Thank you for being here, guys. I've really enjoyed that conversation. Thank you again to Nick and Emma. Take care of yourselves now. Bye.